Berlanga. This
Yeah.
guy is now becoming a household name. We all know how ESPN loves to give you the hype jobs and all that good stuff and create these new superstars. What are you thinking about Berlanga? Do you think that next time up they're going to actually give him some real stiff competition? Or do you think that his power is just that overwhelming?
I think he has very good power. I think 14 wins, all of them in the first round by knockout, mightily impressive. But I think you need to, in their minds, and I'm, speaking just from an outsider's perspective, be careful what you wish for. Because if you put him in too tough, then it shows vulnerability. So you don't want to show the vulnerabilities just yet. You want to gradually move him up the ladder. And if he, it's kind of the mindset of, throw different styles at him and start to, up his level of competition, but don't give him too much. Is he ready for an eliminator fight right now? I don't think so. But he's still so young. And right now, these are crazy times. We've seen so many upsets within the top-ranked Summer Series over the past few months during what they've been able to do on ESPN. You got to be careful with some of your young, budding prospects and your young, hungry contenders, because there are guys who are preparing themselves, who are veterans, who are in the gym, who are in their homes, preparing themselves, ready to go. These quote-unquote journeymen in boxing have a golden opportunity, because now it's hard to go ahead and find sparring, because you can't just jump on a plane, go to a different part of the country, and then have quality sparring. If you are a young prospect and you have financial power behind you from your promoter and your network, right now you can't necessarily utilize all your resources because of COVID. So it's almost like people are in some ways a level playing field. So these journeymen are preparing in some ways, some of the same ways as a young, hungry prospect or contender. So that's why I think that they got to be careful with Berlanga. I think he has all the tools in the world. I think he can be the young, up-and-coming Puerto Rican sensation. But in due time, do not rush this kid too early, especially right now.
Hey, I totally agree, and that's exactly what I saw last night. No offense to his opponent, Moon, and I respect every boxer that steps into the ring and everything like that. But it looked like a glorified professional paid sparring session, in my opinion. You don't take the helmet, you don't have to go in there with the headgear or anything like that. But I think Moon had a good idea that we know this, right? Right. We watched we've been in the business long enough. We know that some guys know what they are. I always like to say DOA, but the thing is, I want to be respectful. That's the whole thing. And I just knew, looking at Moon, that he wasn't prepared for what was about to happen, man.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you this. So, as I was watching the fight, I was like, man, oh man, Berlanga looked really impressive. I looked at the credentials of Moon, and then I saw on Twitter a very good friend of mine, Tay Jones, who's a young up-and-coming fighter down in the Atlanta area. He actually worked with Moon a little bit, and Tay will tell you like it is, and that's a fact. And he told me, and he put on social media, that Moon has worked a lot of guys in sparring and doesn't take big punches like that. So for Tay to say that and say how impressed he was by Berlanga, I'm like, okay, here's somebody who's worked with Moon before, who's seen him, give the business to fighters that have punching power, and he is bestowing some compliments upon Edgar Berlanga. So that to me was like, because I was a little on the fence like you, and then I saw that, and I'm like, okay, man, now I'm impressed. But like I said, proceed with caution. It's why you and I have so many conversations with people around the sport that we look up to and we admire and we value their opinion. And Tay is certainly one of those people. And for him to say that Edgar Berlanga did things that he's never seen done to Moon, I'm like, all right. But again, like I said, move him slowly.
That's what I'm saying too. See, that's the whole thing about young boxers when they're very talented. There's no reason to just pushing them pushing and pushing and pushing. Wait till they get to their 20th, 21st fight to where they got enough experience, and then that's when we start really throwing out the killers and the people that are going to actually really challenge you, really the veterans of the sport. Most of these guys are fighting guys that are actually in their age frame. They don't have a lot of boxing. They don't have a lot of experience as a pro, but they may have some experience as an amateur, and that's exactly how you build up these super champions. And I think Berlanga has the potential to be one, but he is fighting in one of the toughest divisions in all of boxing, man. 168 is crucial, and it's tough. And to me, at 168, you got to have power, but you got to be able to know how to move your feet and move around a little bit as well, too. I see that problem with a lot of boxers in that division where they have a lot of power, but then they lack the footwork. Or they have great footwork, but they lack the power. It's a really, 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 really fun division. And I always feel like the ultimate boxers are at middleweight, 160, 168, 175, because that's where you have that line where you can have speed and power.
Well, that's such a great assessment. They are the hybrids, because the heavyweights, you think of significant power, guys that can turn out your lights at any one moment. The lighter weight classes, power, yes, but more focused on speed and quickness and mobility. Whereas when you have the fighters in the middleweight division, 168, 175, they got the pop, but how many times have you heard, especially at the truly elite level, like someone like a Caleb Plant, they're like, man, Caleb moves like a featherweight or a lightweight. Or they'll say about David Benavidez, man, he punches like a heavyweight, because they're that hybrid. And that's what I love about 160, 168. We all know about the welterweight division being the money division in boxing. But 60, 68, and man, a division I love very much, 154. That has been a consistent division for years. I mean, honestly, to be brutally honest with you, my man, all these divisions in boxing right now look really good. I mean, you look down the list, and I don't think there's one division that you could say is kind of light. The only division, maybe the cruiserweight division, because there are a lot of fighters that I haven't seen on the UK and European fighters. But other than that, and even that division's really good. Right. So it's like all these divisions in boxing look so appetizing.
And you know what? Cruiserweight has always been kind of overlooked. I remember that you would rarely see cruiserweight fights as a main event or even on big cards or things of that nature. But because I guess they always see it as somewhat of a tweener division between guys that are maybe deciding if they want to be a light heavyweight or be a heavyweight. But usually, most times, those guys become heavyweights eventually because they can't keep getting down to 190. So, you know, I just always feel like they're just a smaller version of heavyweights, but they move a little bit better at the same time too, though, because they have that 190 weight limit and everything like that. But cruiserweight, I would love for that one to get a lot more attention. But I know they did pretty good with Usyk when he was able to, unify all the belts and everything. And that's the key thing about divisions is if you unify every belt, that division is a happening division because now you have a kingpin of that division. You don't have these assorted alphabetical titles running around. And that's what's going to make 154 so special right now because we know the WBO belt is, I don't know if it's if anybody's won it yet or anything like that, but we know 154, Jaime Munguia has already surrendered that belt. So I'm thinking to myself, we might see a unified champion at 154 within the next 18 months, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, we have the unification matchup coming up on September 26th right. with Rosario and Charlo. So that, to me, with the exception of the WBO title, that is going to be the best in the world at 154 with Jermell Charlo and Jason Rosario. And Julian Williams, I had him on last week on 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific time on Monday, and he told me that he's going to have an interim fight, and then he will get the winner of that prospective matchup. So that is how 154, at least told to me by Julian Williams, is going to play itself out over the next few months.
All right. So, hey, and I'm excited, man. I can't wait because we got the WBC, the IBF, and I know that WBA has 2 belts and everything like that. And I'm guessing the one that Lara and
Castagna.
Castano fought for. That one is kind of in purgatory
Parallel.
because I
Yeah.
think because Castano was stripped of that belt. It was a draw and all that good stuff. So that's one that you kind of think about as well too. But I know that hey, a lot of people we're talking about 154. Nobody's talking about Mr. Eslandi Lara, and I think that hey, he got all right and all say to get one of these guys in a big unification fight once all that happens as well too. It seems like they just don't mention him as much as they should. You know what I mean?
Stylistically, he's a nightmare. That's why. And also, just wanted to
Right.
let you know, want to point out a great strength and conditioning coach, Scooter. They call him Scooter. His name is Dave. He works with a lot of top guys. Daniel Jacobs out in New York. He's watching the show. Great to see that Scooter is doing his thing out in New York. I mean, I think if you watch this guy, he puts on unbelievable workouts for top level fighters. Anyways, with Lara, Erislandy Lara coming off of the win against Saul or Canelo Alvarez's brother, Ramon Alvarez, pretty much destroyed him in August of last year in Minneapolis. And Lara is just waiting for an opportunity. And I assume that he will probably be, a fight announcement's going to happen. He might be on the Fox side of things. So on the Showtime roll down, their schedule with PBC. And now these names that you're bringing up, I assume will probably be on the Fox side of things. And I'm very interested to see what Fox is going to roll out over these next few months. So, Lara is still getting better. He is, so tough stylistically to handle because he's a Cuban fighter, but also over recent memory, he has gotten more exciting because he doesn't have the mobility in his legs as he's gotten older. But it makes him sit down in his punches more. It makes him use his jab more. It makes him, engage more. So we'll see who Lara is going to step inside the ring with hopefully soon.
Yeah, man, that's one of my top guys right there. And I know I'm not gonna say anything, but I always feel like he did win that fight against Canelo. But you know what, man?
Close
It is
one.
what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. Canelo's still a great fighter. You're great. But I just felt like the Cuban style was something that he really couldn't deal with that night, man. And it is what it is. That's what body shots are for. That's what power shots are for. And that's exactly what got him over the top in that fight. So, hey, that was a war, and that you a bad man when your promoter runs in there and says, no rematch, not at all. Oscar screamed that out to the heavens that there wasn't going to be a rematch. So, hey, it is what it is.